Last season, they had 77 points, and the big question is with the San Jose Sharks, are they bad? And if they are they bad enough to challenge for the crazy draft that's coming up? Or are they only bad enough to finish 10th and potentially, 10th last, that is, and potentially have an outside shot at the playoffs for most of the season, only to screw it up and get a, 12th or 13th overall pick? That feels like the San Jose Sharks. What are the odds saying right now at sportsinteraction.com/SDPN, Jesse?
Their regular season point total is set at 74.5.
They had 77 points last season, like I said.
So the betting market expects them to take a step back.
That's weird. I think I feel like I might like them a little bit more than most, which isn't good news for them because I don't like them very much. They're not the greatest team. And Adam, though, you bring up such a good point that everyone needs to take into account when it comes to figuring out which teams are going to finish where. The Sharks, I feel like, are the ideal candidate for if you think they're going to do okay, dial it back. Because there's great incentive to tank this season.
Right.
There's no incentive to ever be mediocre. But do we really expect the Sharks to challenge for a playoff spot? No. Do we expect them to be as bad as the bottom feeders of the conference? Me personally, no. But
there's a lot of people who do.
Mike Grier just got there, and GMs always love to be busy bees. And new GMs like to be busy bees. And wouldn't it be great to kick off your managerial tenure with a first, second, or third overall pick in one of the best drafts that we've seen in a very long time? Well, so I look at the roster right now. I think a lot of those guys are going to be out the door.
I'm curious about the way Mike Grier is going to handle this, and I think Dom Lucian touched on this perfectly in his season previews for The Athletic. He said, the big question is, why aren't they rebuilding? What's going on here? And then went through some of the contracts that they have. So you've got, because Hurdle was re-signed last year. You've still got Logan Couture, who's 33 and will be 38 by the time his contract's done.
Oh my God, when did that happen?
You've got to re-sign Timo Meier or trade him, but you also have Carlson, who's here till 26-27. Mark-Edward Vlasic, who's 35 now and will go till he's 41.
That contract's a disaster.
And then, Mario Ferraro, not so bad. He's 24. But, you've got some really tough contracts on this team. And you have, unfortunately, some okay goaltending.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
We like James Reimer. He's always solid.
Always solid.
And that's not just because Steve likes James Reimer.
No, it's because the stats support it.
But also, they have Kaapo Kähkönen.
Kaapo Kähkönen, who they got in the Jacob Middleton trade, I believe it was. And this is the thing. If you're going to tank, there's no easier way to Shark Tank.
Nah.
If there's no easier way to be bad than make sure you don't have goaltending. And the Sharks do, though. They have two goalies. James Reimer is more than competent. Kaapo Kähkönen, I think, is going to have a bounce back year, and he's going to continue to improve. And we should have maybe read the tea leaves a bit more when they got rid of Brent Burns. Because that's not just getting rid of a contract that you need to get rid of. It's because they did get value for him. They didn't get nothing for him. It was just close to nothing.
Well, getting value is cap space in a cap strap league.
That's the biggest value that they got. They're an incredibly difficult team to read. I think the biggest thing for them is I think teams are going to be willing to trade guys who they potentially have control of just to get a little sniff of the Connor Bedard sweepstakes. And that's why I got eyes on that. Forget all the big money guys. I think those are going to be miracles to pull off. I'm looking at Timo Meier. I think that'll be Mike Grier's first really, really difficult decision as GM.
Jesse, what do you make of the San Jose Sharks as they stand right now?
Doug Wilson really screwed over this team and the fan base. You've left this team with a bunch of guys who were really good in 2016 and 2017, and there's too many holdovers from like 5 years ago NHL stars. I wish for the fan base that this team isn't very good, like out of the gate, and that there's an easy sell-off here for Mike Greer, and that's the direction they go in. Because, like you guys said, the worst place to be is middling, and that's what they are right now, where you have too many good pieces, frankly, to prop them up. But not good enough to make any sort of run at anything.
A solid way to stay out of the middle and be bad is to start the season poorly. And the Sharks are doing what I know a lot of teams genuinely hate, and that's starting the season in Europe. And, if you lose those games, if you come home tired, if you're not able to bounce back from the schedule, there's tumult before they even board the plane. With
the Russian players.
With Mike Greer having to threaten, we're not going to go. And if I'm not mistaken, it was a developing story at the time we were recording this, but if I'm not mistaken, several of the players aren't even going, just to avoid the whole headache. It's not a great way to start your season. Now, do the players potentially rally around, Mike Greer, establishing we're a team, we ride together, all that? Maybe they do. There's still just not a lot to be excited about with this year's San Jose Sharks, like negatively or positively. They're a little bit like, remember I've said this multiple times, but the Kraken's greatest sin last season was being irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the Sharks, isn't it?
Well, let me ask you this. As a Leaf fan, how does it feel that Alex Barabanov is taking top-line right-wing minutes right now?
Usually I would feel bad as a Leaf fan because I'd be like, oh, this team is stupid. But all it makes me do is look at the Sharks and go, wow, they must be really bad. And they are.
Okay. All right.
Maybe it's 25% they're dumb, 75% the Sharks are bad.
Yes. Yeah. Maybe it could be that. So then all of that considered, guys, what do you think success looks like for the San Jose Shark franchise? So, like a lot of teams, like success for, teams like Chicago, teams like Arizona, high round draft pick, big talent player coming in. What is a successful season for the San Jose Sharks? How do they get some positive momentum that it doesn't seem, at least from the outlook, maybe they're happy inside the dressing room, but honestly, from the outside, it looks a little bleak.
Yeah, I hate to say it. Success is losing games and shedding dough.
Yeah, you need a distinct direction here. And for the Sharks, a distinct direction would be towards the bottom. Go get as many draft picks as you can, sell off these players on this franchise so that you can be competitive in a couple of years. Like, it's time for a rebuild here in San Jose.
I think, because at the time we're shooting this, it could be irrelevant by the time this is released, but there's a lot of teams waiting to find out what their opening day roster is going to look like. And I think there might be more movement in October than we're used to seeing. And a really easy way to lose games quickly is make sure your goaltending's bad. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to hold on to James Reimer, who's a pending UFA. There are teams in this league who need goaltending. I wouldn't be surprised if he was traded from the Sharks before Halloween.
Interesting. James Reimer, who's been there since like the 2016 run. He was on that team.
No, he because then he went to Carolina.
Yeah, and then they brought him back.
And they bring him back.
Yeah, so just hanging around San Jose.
that or he'll be extended. But
right.
I would expect movement on him in relatively short order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
whether it's a trade or an extension.
So, do you have Timo Meier? Because they did extend Thomas Hertl.
Yeah, those contracts are massive. Like, you look at the cap friendly and you're like, oh, Erik Karlsson's still signed for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And even half of that is what, $6 million, $5.5 million?
You're not getting out of the Vlasic deal. You're just not.
It's insane.
So here's what success would be then. Any of those deals salvaging themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I want to say this is most likely, but Erik Karlsson is the best player of the bunch, him and Couture. If Erik Karlsson can be even a shadow of 2017 Erik Karlsson, that'll be success because that'll make the team better and him easier to move.
12 seconds to go. Gentlemen, where do you have the San Jose Sharks finishing this year?
6, which is bad.
For the sake of Sharks fans, I have them last. 8.
Wow.
Go Tank.
There it is. And I've got them in 7th place.
Shark Tank.